We welcome you to Toluca, Mexico, about 40 miles southwest of Mexico City, for the Concacaf Women's Under-17 Championship. Today, it is a group stage game featuring the United States against Puerto Rico here at the headquarters of the Mexican Football Federation. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Schlanger. Glad to have you with us on this Sunday afternoon, and it is a brilliant one. Sunny skies, temperature in the low 70s, and just absolutely ideal conditions for women's soccer here in Toluca, Mexico. And for the U.S., it could be a big game. With a win, it would propel them into the semifinal round of this competition. They began group play just 2 days ago with an emphatic victory over Panama, 13-0, while Puerto Rico fell to Canada by a 5-0 score. Canada and Panama will play later on today in the other Group B match. But as far as Puerto Rico, their hopes of advancing on to the Final Four really hanging by a thread after a demolishing at the hands of the Canadian team, while the U.S. just absolutely flattened Panama in their first game as they got a 5-goal performance by Kennedy Fuller, a hat trick from Alex Pfeiffer, and there were altogether 6 different players for the U.S. who scored in that game, the most goals of any team so far through the first game for each team in group stage play. There are 2 groups of 4 teams apiece here in the knockout portion, where each side plays 3 different games. In Group B, as you saw, it's the U.S., Canada, Puerto Rico, and Panama. Meanwhile, over in Group A, Mexico, Haiti, Costa Rica, and El Salvador. Those 4 squads played their second games yesterday, and Mexico and Haiti have already guaranteed their spots in the semifinal round. Now it's the second games in Group B coming up today. The U.S. and Canada can equal the result of both Mexico and Haiti and complete the Final Four with still 1 game to play for each team here in the next 2 days.
Damas y caballeros, les pedimos ponerse de pie para el himno nacional de Puerto Rico.
This is the 8th edition of this biennial competition that typically qualifies 3 teams to the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup. Now this year, because the Dominican Republic, a fellow Concacaf participant, is the World Cup host, only 2 berths are for the taking here at this tournament, so the 2 teams that win the semifinals will qualify for the Women's World Cup. Here is the starting 11 for Puerto Rico and their head coach, Keyshawn Cordier. Cordier, the 45-year-old from Trinidad and Tobago, who has also been a coach with the women's senior national team for Puerto Rico, and has also been a club and collegiate coach in Southern California for just about a decade with schools like UC Riverside, and has spent the majority of his time in the Inland Empire. Captains meeting at midfield, and our 4 officials from Jamaica, led by head referee Nerissa Goldsim, the 35-year-old who took charge of the Costa Rica-Haiti match in the first game of group play.
This side, so you're kicking that way? Okay. Enjoy the game, alright? All the best. All the best.
Goldson, also a referee at the Women's Gold Cup qualifying matches, and typically a referee in the Premier League back home in Jamaica. And now the starting 11 for the U.S. and a much changed lineup from game number 1. Virtually everyone has been subbed out. The only goal scorer that's a holdover from game number 1, Riley McClanahan, with the likes of Alex Pfeiffer, Kennedy Fuller, Hardiman, Scott Towns, all on the bench to start this one. A new goalkeeper in Kennedy Zorn, replacing Molly Pensky, who got the clean sheet. So the U.S. able to showcase their depth, and by virtue of such a convincing opening win, 13-0, they can rest some of their primary starters and still bring on other players who are equal to the challenge. No squad in this competition can match the depth and talent across the board of the U.S. and already off to such a demonstrative start with that 13-0 win, and looking for their second victory here today that would book them a spot in the semifinal round. U.S. playing to win its 6th Concacaf Under-17 Women's Championship and 4th in a row after winning this tournament in 08, 2012, 16, 18, and the last time it was held 2 years ago in 2022. Puerto Rico in the blue, the U.S. in the whites for the second all-time meeting at the under-17 level for these two nations. They also met in the group stage 2 years ago, with the U.S. winning, ironically enough, by a 13-0 score, the same score they posted in Game 1 of the group stage 2 days ago here this year in their win over Panama. And the U.S. in that first game took command early. They had been working through a couple of training camps coming into this tournament on their combination play, ball movement, building out from the back, also getting their wingbacks forward and into offensive attacking positions, and we saw that on display throughout the 90 minutes in game number 1. They also admitted that they were so ready for this tournament. They had been training for several weeks, and you get that initial excitement, the adrenaline flowing, and it took them a few minutes to kind of settle down and find the rhythm of the match. And that's always one of the key components when you play a big international competition, taking those emotions and harnessing them and channeling them in the proper fashion. You're so amped up and ready to go, but you want to settle into soccer mode as quickly as possible. This is Kiara Gilmore, who plays out of the FC Dallas Academy back forwards, one of 3 Dallas Academy players in the starting 11 for the U.S. today. And the U.S. back in game number 1, very good at working the ball up the flanks. A lot of one-touch soccer. U.S. coming into this Under-17 tournament on the heels of 2 different training camps. One in September back in Carson, California, where they beat Japan in a friendly 2-0 and also tied 3-3 in another. They also had one back in early January in San Diego. And then just prior to arriving here in Mexico, they got together for a few days in Guatemala to put the finishing touches on their preparation. The U.S. and Puerto Rico getting things started here today. Panama and Canada will play next, as Canada will also look for a win to seal a spot in the semifinal round, and that begins later on next week. And there is a foul and a free kick coming up in a very dangerous position for the U.S. Just shy of the 3-minute mark, and it was Kimi Escaño, the player from Florida, who was taken down in a very inviting spot for the first set piece of the match. Haley Carlin, the keeper, getting the wall set here. Who plays for the Trenton Rebels on the club side.
Hey, if it's a touch, we all go. What's the left? Hey, what's the left? What's the bullet? What's the bullet?
So the U.S. looking to strike first in the opening minutes. And it will be Escaño who chips it towards the corner, and well played by Carlin. She tried to bend it around the wall, and Carlin read it well. Good placement, and even better in that she didn't cough up the rebound. A lot of times those balls come in and they take the short hop, and it's easy for it to bounce off the keeper, and then can be an easy tap-in for a player who's following from the attacking team. Now, the key for Puerto Rico here is to stay in the game early, weather some of the initial U.S. waves of attack. They will understand and comprehend the fact that this is very much a big ask for them against a powerful U.S. team. They're outmanned. They don't have the same level of talent, but if they can stay in it early here and try to go toe-to-toe with the U.S., at least develop some confidence, create some doubt in the U.S. players perhaps, and the longer they keep it competitive, keep a clean sheet, the more they give themselves a chance going forward later on in the match. That's good work by Lena Powell, earning the game's first corner kick. Lena Powell, one of the few players holdover from game number 1. She was a starter and was especially dangerous coming down the flank, and she's back in there once again here today in the second game of group play. That one had a little too much juice on it, so it's headed up and over the bar. And for Puerto Rico, the longer they can keep it competitive, the better they'll feel about their chances. If you go back to their opening loss on Friday to Canada, they conceded 4 times in the first half and then only gave up 1 goal in the second half. So they really settled down. But it was a Canadian offensive onslaught early that essentially doomed them by the time they hit the break. You see the U.S. applying pressure high up the pitch here, not giving Puerto Rico much time on the ball whatsoever. The mission always, when you lose it, win it back in just a matter of seconds. And you see how they get numbers around the ball, just swarming the blue shirts when they do get in possession. good switch of field. Looking for Olivia Bevilacqua. And it will be ushered out by Alexis Coughlin. Now, among the new format and rules changes here in this tournament for this year, if you go back to the last time they held this event in 2022, it was a field that was increased to 20 nations, but it featured some really lopsided scores, including wins for the U.S. by 20-0 and 13-0. So the tournament this year back to its original 8-team format that they began with in the inaugural edition back in 2008. And the countries that finish in the top 2 in each of the 2 groups cross over in the semifinals, with the winners of those games qualifying for the World Cup. And as I mentioned earlier, from Group A, Mexico, the host nation, and Haiti have already qualified for the semifinal rounds, each winning their opening 2 matches. The U.S. building nicely here, but can't penetrate the back line for the Puerto Ricans. Tracking back for it, Kiara Gilmore. Now Jocelyn Travers from the Bay Area. This is the first ever U.S. Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifying roster to include professional players as well, when you think about the depth and the talent that they have on the team for the tournament this year. Trying to create a chance here on the end line, blocked out for the second corner, and the first from that opposite side. That's good work defensively by Lauren Smith, who plays for Florida United in the U.S. and one of several players for this Puerto Rican national side that does play their club soccer in the lower 48. 10th minute, no score. Second group stage game in Group B for both the U.S. and Puerto Rico. Line drive comes in and headed just over. But that's a pretty good delivery. Nicely worked. Riley Cross just couldn't get it on frame. Now left wide open, free header for the midfielder. I mentioned the professional players. Both of them were starters in the first game for the U.S. on Friday, but both starting on the bench here today. You've got 16-year-old Mel Barcenas from the San Diego Wave and the 16-year-old from St. Louis who plays for the Kansas City Current, Alex Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer had a terrific game with the hat trick, set up 2 more, and was instrumental in the U.S. thumping Panama 13-0. Venturing forward, Jocelyn Travers, trying to find Powell. And the U.S. recovers so quickly on the back line. And as the captain for the day, Trinity Armstrong, Ainsley McCammon of Solar SC, wore the captain's armband for Game 1 on Friday. She starts on the bench here today. Puerto Rico sitting well back here, as you might expect from a team that knows what they're up against. U.S. trying to cut in from the right-hand side. Able to push the back line up even further. Long drive from distance, and boy, didn't miss by much. That was a fine effort. Jocelyn Travers. And that's what this U.S. side will do. They like to get their backs up into the final third, and they don't mind taking these long-range shots. They definitely get scoring from their back line. And you often see that when you play teams that play such conservative defense. that sit so far back, and they allow them the space, like Puerto Rico is allowing the U.S. here today, and like Panama afforded the Americans back on Friday. So why not take that space and sometimes let it rip? The U.S. has goal scoring all over the roster and all over the pitch. They get contributions on frame from so many members of their roster. This is Powell turning it inside. She lets it fly, but pulls it well wide. Lena Powell, who comes from a very athletic family. Her father played football for the Dallas Cowboys. Her mom, professional basketball in the WNBA. And she herself could barely find time for anything other than sports growing up. I mean, in addition to soccer, she played basketball, softball, lacrosse, won a state title in high school in track and field, and oh, by the way, was also a member of the cheer squad. So she was cheering everybody else on in the few sports she didn't participate in. U.S. working it back to Kennedy Zorn, who gets the start today after it was Molly Vopensky who kept the clean sheet in the win on Friday. Going long and direct, but a bit too much on that, and it will go out for a goal kick. One of the advantages of the U.S. roster here at this Under-17 championship is the fact that it is not just a group of players that has been brought together for this event, but so many of them have been together over the last several years and winning titles at the Under-15 level as well. So you have players that have come up together, that know each other extremely well, and that familiarity always is a plus. Trying to create a chance here. Top of the box. Getting numbers forward. Low line drive, and Carlton makes the save on the shot from just outside the box. Now, in fact, it was Travers who just inched her way inside the 18, but trying to drag that left-footed shot to the far post. Carlin was able to get down for the stop. This is Riley Cross in space. Eleven of the players on the roster for this U.S. team won the Concacaf U15 Girls Championship back in 2022, and that was played in Tampa, Florida. So it's basically just taking that same core group of players and moving them on to the next level, and it makes such a difference when you're building throughout the national team pipeline. And the foul there on Riley McClanahan going down. McClanahan, one of the 6 different goal scorers for the U.S. in their 13-0 win on Friday. Second set piece for the U.S. here, just past the quarter of an hour mark in this scoreless game. Travers for Powell. And Puerto Rico content just to concede possession to the U.S. They're going to keep everybody behind the ball, play off the U.S., give them a lot of latitude here because defending is their priority and what they believe is really their only true way to be competitive. If they let the U.S. get in behind and work the ball too much in the final third, they're going to be up against it. And goal difference in the end could come into play in determining what teams move forward. Having already conceded 5 in their first match, they want to keep it to a lean number here against the U.S. if at all possible. Jocelyn Travers again, this time against a multitude of players. Almost threaded the needle. Riley Cross works it quickly. The U.S. good at changing fields as the shot sails high and wide. Now they're applying pressure here in the early going, but just a couple of shots that have been on target so far. One from a free kick, another from Travers on the left-hand side. And look at this, really turning the screws here. Getting numbers up the pitch, trying to keep Puerto Rico pinned in their own end, and they force the turnover. Travers for Powell, who tries to turn, is knocked down, and that's going to be a foul. Kaylee Rivera knew right away and just turned and ran the other direction. Here is the U.S. head coach, Katie Schupfer, the 35-year-old, who spent 2 years with a lot of these players as the head coach of the under-15 side, so she knows them well. She's won a title with them, and so that familiarity is not just an asset for the players to know each other, but to know their head coach as well, to work with her at one level and then keep working with her through the next several years. It means so much, that continuity from one age to the next, one squad to the next, and that's part of the U.S. philosophy. Can they keep building through that pipeline to eventually get a lot of these players into the senior national side, having all played together, knowing the system, the coaches, and be primed for success when they get to the top level of the international game. Schupfer herself played for the under-17 national team back in the day. Also a professional player for the Boston Breakers. Puerto Rico, rare opportunity in possession in the U.S. end, but it doesn't last long. U.S. was especially dangerous down this right-hand side in their first game against Panama. But still no score as we are into the 20th minute here today on this sunny, warm Sunday in Mexico. Powell 1v1. Riley McClanahan through 3 players. Everybody pushing up for the U.S., but the shot misses wide, and the U.S. taking a lot of those long-range shots. Alexis Coughlin trying to hammer it from well outside the 18 here. Now the win for the U.S. against Panama in Game 1, tied for the second biggest margin of victory for Team USA at this event in qualifying history, and the third time that the Americans have posted a 13-0 victory. It allowed head coach Katie Schupfer to use her full complement of subs, all 5 that were allowed, able to come off the bench against Panama. And a free kick for Puerto Rico. Hear the chatter coming from the U.S. bench. The communication is always constant and free-flowing out on the pitch and from the touchline. I documented earlier how the U.S. is trying to win this event for the 4th consecutive time. They have absolutely dominated this tournament since its inception back in 2008. Trying to win for the 6th time overall in its 8 years in existence. And the foul here on Puerto Rico, giving the U.S. another free kick. And the whistle on Sarah Martinez, the captain, who's a member of the North Carolina Courage Academy. So a little further out than the one they had in the opening minutes that was saved by the keeper, Kaylee Carlin. This time just chipped in, trying to get a runner and a head on it, but nobody there for the U.S. It's one of those that is kind of tricky because it's a little too far out to go for goal with a realistic expectation of scoring. But you also have that kind of gap that makes it tough for a chip with any kind of pace on it to allow a header to be very effective because you're still far out from goal. So you almost have to create a combination of headers between players or some kind of passing sequence. It's difficult to get a soft chip to the top of the box and get a header that can threaten the goal. A foul here with Jocelyn Travers going to ground. Just about midway through this first half of play. The U.S., as expected, dominating possession, but still no score. Now Lena Powell, plenty of daylight. And she's going to be whistled for the foul here. Now just got into the back of Sienna Alvarez. So the free kick from Gabriela Barrios. Now line drive comes in and the stop made by Kennedy Zorn. And the first save she has had to make today. That's a good effort down the right flank by Sienna Alvarez. And on the line drive, I don't know if she meant to get it on frame or was trying to cross it, but Kennedy Zorn with her first significant touch of the match, and was also an issue for the keeper in game one, Molly Vapensky. She just didn't have much to do at all. When you win 13-0, you don't get many touches, and you always ask the keepers about those games when your team is blowing out the other side, and sometimes it can make it a bit challenging because you're just not that involved. So then when you're called into duty on those rare occasions, you don't necessarily have the rhythm of the game, so it makes it a little more challenging to make those key stops. Trying to stay mentally engaged when the ball is spending so much time on the other side of the field. And that's always the key task for a keeper like Zorn today and Vapensky on Friday. 25 minutes deep here in the first half. Slight breeze blowing on this sunny, warm day in Toluca, Mexico. Just about half an hour drive southwest of Mexico City. Gorgeous area, surrounded by the Nevado de Toluca National Park. There's an extinct stratovolcano that towers above the area, fourth highest peak in all of Mexico. So you see it off to the left-hand side of the screen when the U.S. gets down into the final third, and the mountains ringing the area. Just a picturesque part of Mexico. And the U.S. working it down deep. And Puerto Rico once again answering the challenge, now trying to hit on the counterattack. Carolyn Helfrich of the Virginia Union getting it to the end line, and that's something that the U.S. did more in game one in the win over Panama that we haven't seen them do as much here today. Work it down the flanks, get it to the end line, and then cross it back. Today, instead of going all the way down the pitch to the end line, they've been taking shots from distance. And that is going to be a free kick for the U.S. Helfrich strong on the ball. And now their first set piece here from an angle such as this. The others were more in the middle of the pitch, so more options that they might consider as they look for the opener here. Headed down, loose in the box, and the shot provides the U.S. with the opening goal of the game. Off the cam, the rebound, and the U.S. in front here in the 28th minute in Toluca. Carolyn Helfrich, who had won this free kick, is the benefactor of the headed ball here, comes to her, able to get over the top of it and go near post. And Carolyn Helfrich gets the U.S. on the board and out to the 1-0 lead. And Helfrich now through 2 games becomes the 7th different U.S. player to score. The only other one in the lineup today, Riley McClanahan. The others from the win over Panama, all on the bench to start this match. Pfeiffer, Fuller, Towns, Hardiman, and Scott. So, Katie Scheffer, the coach for the U.S., finally watches her team take the lead here over the midway point of this first half of play. And that goal for the U.S., part and parcel of the way they scored a lot of their goals against Panama. They got those balls into the box right around the top of the 6, and the defending was just lacking from Panama as they left too much space for the U.S. forwards, and they were able to find a body, and in this case the header found Helfrich, and it was pretty much a routine finish for a player of that caliber and the other players we saw scoring for the U.S. on Friday. Now into the 30th minute of this first half. And the U.S. on the attack once again. Powell this time taken down on that far side, and that's going to be a penalty shot. The penalty conceded by Yana Pierce. Lena Powell going down just inside the box, and it was from that very spot where she was so dangerous on Friday in Game 1, creating a lot of offensive opportunities. This time she draws the penalty. And now the U.S. looking for the 2-0 lead. U.S. also had a penalty on Friday, their first of the day here today, and it's an easy finish. And the U.S. up 2-0. Jocelyn Travers has the goal for Team USA. That's a good finish. That's the type of penalty that no keeper is going to save. Place it like that with authority. No matter which way they dive, even if they guess right, they're not going to be able to get a hand up on that and be able to stop it. So that's textbook penalty taking. There's a long shot, and there's the answer from Puerto Rico from right outside the 18. One of the shots of the tournament, and they have the lead just seconds after the U.S. went up 2-0. What a strike. Maria Maldonado of Florida Premier, and a thunderbolt. It's Puerto Rico right back into it. The first goal that the U.S. has conceded here in this tournament. Wow. I mean, that was just a tremendous strike from a well out of the box, and Maldonado so far against the run of play. I mean, we haven't seen anything close to that established offensively by Puerto Rico out of nowhere. They have given themselves life here. 2-1, 33rd minute. The U.S. back on the front foot once again. Good delivery. Ball is free. And the shots went over the bar by one of the two U.S. goal scorers, Caroline Helfrich. Now you consider the ebbs and flows of a game like this. Just moments ago, it looked like the U.S. was in position to really settle down, dominate, and you just got that vibe that the U.S. was in that familiar position of taking firm control. Puerto Rico not creating any meaningful offensive chances, really not even having that much possession in the U.S. end, and then all of a sudden, just seconds later, they get a rocket and a goal for head coach Keyshawn Cordier, the native of Trinidad and Tobago. As good a strike as you will see here in this tournament, and now it's the psychology of that moment. What will happen? What will that do to this match? The U.S. still the better team, still dominating possession, but does that give Puerto Rico more confidence and a sense of momentum to try and get on the ball more, to take some possession instead of sitting back defensively, to go forward and be braver and bolder in trying to create more offensive chances? Does it rattle the U.S. at all on the other end? I wouldn't think it would, but sometimes you just never know. But Puerto Rico hoping that it can serve as a springboard for them here. Back to a one-goal game. And just over 10 minutes remaining here in this first half. Good throw. And now out for a goal kick. Puerto Rico with their first goal of the tournament, and the U.S. giving up their first on the defensive end. And a foot race here. Sienna Alvarez earns a corner. Nope, not going to do that. It looks like they're going to call a goal kick, maybe. Now that is a corner. Yep. Alvarez pointing to the spot there as it deflected off the U.S. defender, and now the first corner of the match for Puerto Rico. And the flag is up. That's going to be offsides on Puerto Rico. So didn't do enough with that corner kick opportunity. Alvarez laying it off, and Pierce with her cross block. And then coming back to Alvarez, who was in an offsides position. Lena Powell trying to run that one down, but running out of steam instead. Throw in for Puerto Rico. The U.S. still applying pressure high up the pitch. Coughlin breaks the lines with the pass. Another good opportunity for the U.S. with Nguyen. Coughlin again. Good combination play. The U.S. gets the service in from Powell, but it's going to be offsides. All on the Americans here. Now, not only have the U.S. really owned this event over the years since it was first played back in 2008, but they have really dominated in a way that no other team has come close to. The U.S. with an all-time record coming into this event of 35 wins, no losses, and 2 draws. Outscoring their opponents 217-10. So a lot of one-sided matches, a lot of dominating performances, but that being said, as they find themselves in a 1-goal game here, they still have played some close matches here in this Under-17 championship over the years. They've had 1-goal wins over the likes of Mexico and Canada, as Carlin goes down to make the save. They actually had a tie with the host Mexico, had a 1-goal win over Haiti. Prior to today, and the goal for Puerto Rico, half of the goals the U.S. had allowed in this tournament all time have been to Mexico. And Mexico figures to be their primary threat to the title here this year. The #1 ranked team at the U17 level in Concacaf and the host nation for this tournament here in Toluca. Could very well be on a collision course between the U.S. and Mexico for the championship here in 2024. 40th minute here in Toluca, chip through. Carlin comes out to make the save, and that one will be kept alive and played out for a U.S. throw. Now, Kaylee Carlin has been very good, very attentive and observant here. And she recognized the danger here, coming out to play that one before Nguyen, the player from the Virginia Development Academy, could really get a clean shot away. Win again. This time the pass behind its intended target. Final 5 minutes plus stoppage time in this first half, and considering the way things have unfolded, we don't figure to have much stoppage time whatsoever. Helfrich, who has one of the 2 U.S. goals. Travers. Now Nguyen. Pass too far for Nguyen. Cleared away by Puerto Rico, and the U.S. will once again start from the back. That is one of the things when you have such a potent offensive attack like Team USA does, you can forget about the defenders on that back line, because at various points they don't have to do what they're typically called upon to do, which is defend and challenge and work that back line defensively. But the U.S. is very robust on that back line, very solid. And even though they don't have to get involved in that way all that often, that doesn't mean by any stretch that they are a porous group. There's a very good core here. But just because of the U.S. prowess going forward, the defenders spend almost more time attacking than they actually do defending. And now the U.S. in transition here, trying to get white shirts forward. Big opportunity in the closing minutes of the first half. And it's going to be run down by Helfrich as she goes down. And it will be a U.S. throw. Keely Rivera able to track her down. Went in for a hard challenge to get the ball, and Helfrich going down, pops right back up. Cross comes in, headed away. Now Puerto Rico with space through the middle of the pitch. But numbers back for the U.S. here. That's a good tackle. Well defended for the U.S. by Trinity Armstrong, the captain. Susanna Roberts looking very dangerous. Has a lot of pace. She often operates on both sides. They try to find her as a target up top. And now a throw in for Puerto Rico here in the final couple of minutes of this opening frame. The U.S. started with 2 goals from Travers and Helfrich. Maldonado, a sensational strike, halved the U.S. lead. And we're sitting at 2-1 here as we come up on the end of the first 45. We are looking at just about 1 minute of stoppage time that should be added here in the next few moments. Rivera switches back to the defensive side, but the pass stolen by Lena Powell. Puerto Rico back on it though. The U.S. pressing for possession here and perhaps one final chance at the end of this first half. Gilmore back for it. Wynn lays it off. Just over a minute left to go here in this first half. U.S. trying to switch fields. And they do indeed add 1 extra minute. Long shot right into the arms of Carlin. Jocelyn Travers in search of her second of this first half, and has just about half a minute left to go now. Possession conceded. Here's Travers going backwards. The U.S. perhaps one final push forward. Final seconds. And that'll take us to the whistle for halftime in Toluca. 45 minutes down. The U.S. scoring the opening 2 goals. Puerto Rico answering back with their first goal of the tournament. Helfrich and Travers on the score sheet for Team USA. Malia Maldonado, a terrific goal for Puerto Rico. So the spirits lifted for this Puerto Rican side. They are within 1 of the powerful U.S. Under-17 squad. And as we head to the locker room at the break, it's Team USA 2 and Puerto Rico 1.
Welcome to the Mexican Soccer Federation. For us, the most important thing is the people, so we will give you the following safety instructions. In case an alarm is activated, remain calm.
Maldonado.
Stay in place.
get it in. You fall for a chance. Oh, it's a screamer. Oh, and it's volleyed and it's in. What about that for a finish?
Puerto Rico lost to Canada. Both Panama and Canada will play later on this afternoon. If the U.S. is able to hang on and beat Puerto Rico, they will book their spot in the semifinal round with still one more group stage game to spare. Puerto Rico desperately needing a win to keep their hopes alive. Those hopes remained alive by the fact that they got their first goal of the competition. Maldonado late in that first half. And they are within one on the powerful U.S. side as the second 45 gets set to commence.
Por el lado de Puerto Rico sale con el 9 Siena Aguilés. Entra con el número 8, Camila Figueroa.
Substitutions will be made. Camila Figueroa will come in for Puerto Rico. And I believe some U.S. substitutions are poised to be made as well. Our referee, Narisa Golson of Jamaica, conferring with one of her officials. Golson in charge of her second match here in the group stage, after also serving as the referee for Costa Rica and Haiti over in Group A. On we go with the second half from the Mexican Football Federation in the town of Toluca, Mexico, just south of Mexico City. And the U.S. holding a one-goal lead as this second 45 gets underway. There is the substitution for Puerto Rico. Figueroa in for Alvarez to start this second half. U.S. Lena Powell coming out. Pounds coming on. Pounds with 2 goals for the U.S. in their 13-0 win over Panama in Game 1. Jordan Hardiman also coming on to replace the captain, Trinity Armstrong. Hardiman had 1 goal in the U.S. victory to get them into this position where a win today would gain them a spot in the semifinal round. Starting this second half pretty much the way they entire first half of play, controlling in the Puerto Rican end, a lot of possession and not much pressure from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico believes their best opportunity is to sit back, give plenty of room to the U.S. on the ball and just try and defend and then hit transition on the counter. The one problem with that theory, though, is the fact that the U.S. is so good at recovering and players scamper on that back line. They have more pace than the Puerto Rican forward, so it's very difficult, even in transition with space, for Puerto Rico to do much damage going the other way. The United States looking to remain unbeaten all time in this Under-17 Concacaf Championship. And the larger goal here this week in Toluca is to secure their spot in the Under-17 World Cup that will be played later on this year in the Dominican Republic. Typically at this Under-17 championship, there are 3 spots available for World Cup qualifying, but because the host nation is from the CONCACAF region in the Dominican, that means as the host, they already get an automatic qualifying berth, and therefore there's only 2 spots coming from this tournament, and that will go to the 2 teams that reach the final later on next week. Keyshawn Cordier, the 45-year-old head coach for Puerto Rico and the native of Trinidad and Tobago, who has spent the better part of a decade as a club and collegiate coach in Southern California and the Inland Empire, most notably with UC Riverside, but has also spent time with the Puerto Rican women's senior side and recently this Under-17 squad. Coughlin plays it out wide for Towns, coming in off the bench here in the second half. The ground. Puerto Rico. Just terrific on Friday, scoring the brace. 3 U.S. players with multiple goals in the game. You also had the St. Louis native Alex Pfeiffer with the first half hat trick. And then Kennedy Fuller equaling a record with 5 goals in the game for Team USA. Two new players adding their names to the scorebooks for the U.S. today, and Helfrich and Travers, who have the 2 tallies so far here this afternoon for the U.S. Puerto Rico trying to get forward, but look at all the white shirts back in defending. Now the most dangerous player, and right here, Susanna Roberts. Ball handler, quick feet. Times that Puerto Rico has been able to venture up the pitch. She's been the one that they have looked for. Now Towns with speed for the U.S. Cuts it back. Hand on. Get another crack at it here. Leaves it off. The U.S. just needed a little more end product. Jocelyn Travers firing high as she looks for the brace on the day. And good run by Travers getting forward, and that's what the U.S. does so well. They get those players that are wingbacks and midfielders just overloading on the flanks. Many times a team like Puerto Rico just doesn't have that cover. You get those numbers forward and it creates some dangerous opportunities. All of the scoring coming back in the first half. First 2 goals from the U.S. and the final goal from Maldonado of Puerto Rico. Coughlin. Nicely by Wynn. On for a corner. The first corner kick of this second half. Rios has had to do a lot of work defensively so far today for Puerto Rico. She has had her hands full.
Outswing! Ref, your work! Outswing! Outswing!
Lofted in, back post. Much juice on it. Jordan Hardiman couldn't do much with it. Hardiman, like Towns, coming in off the bench to start this second half, or second appearance in as many games here this week for Team USA. Something that's so beneficial when you have an event like this, where you just don't get a whole lot of people in the stands, is you're able to hear the talking that goes on the bench and the field. Puerto Rico here, but the U.S. once again recovers very well. Olivia Bevilacqua just couldn't get fully as Alexis Coughlin got back and bumped her off the ball. They needed to hit the afterburners here. Coughlin, a lot of speed, good physicality, gets back to bump it out for Puerto Rico's first corner of the second half. Just going back to finish the thought, you hear the talking from both benches, the coaches, the players on the bench, the players on the pitch, so you hear the dialogue that takes place that really takes you inside the game in a way that you don't capture when you have a lot of folks in the stands. It provides an insight into certain techniques, strategy, and different ways that the teams are looking at the games. It's hard contact that Bevilacqua was on the receiving end of. Puerto Rico looking a little more dangerous here at the outset of this second half. A team like this, with that pass made a little too far in advance by Camilo Figueroa. The problem for a team like Puerto Rico is when you don't spend a lot of time on the ball and then you do get possession, to not be impatient. There's the tendency to be a little too quick in playing it and not have the patience to make the proper play. Like we're going to get another U.S. sub coming on. That'll be Mel Barcenas of the San Diego Wave. There are 5 subs allotted for each team. U.S. coach Katie Schupfer used all 5 in the opening win over Panama. At the outset of the second half, and looks like Barcenas will be the third. Trying to turn upfield. Maldonado, the goal scorer for the U.S. Barcenas set to come in for the U.S., and it will be Kimi Ascanio who will make way. Barcenas, one of the 2 professional players for the U.S. here on this under-17 roster. The San Diego native staying at home to play professional soccer for the San Diego Wave. Youngest player ever signed in NWSL history when she signed with the Wave. Now here she is just off the bench. Such crafty footwork over the bar. So an immediate impact by Barcenas here. Southern California product. Barcenas has done so much at a young age, and to see just the full extent of her impact and how long she's been a focal point of this program. She was actually named to the 2022 roster for this under-17 championship the last time it was played as a 14-year-old, but she was ruled out of the competition because of an ankle injury. So she would have played as a 14-year-old 2 years ago had it not been for the injury. That's how highly they think of Barcenas when it comes to this under-17 roster this year and for her future as a U.S. national team player. And again, it's the first time the U.S. has used professional players here at this under-17 tournament. You have Barcenas from the San Diego Wave and Alex Pfeiffer, who now plays for the Kansas City Current and hails from across the state of Missouri in St. Louis. Here is Barcenas, dispossessed. And a free kick for Puerto Rico. Perhaps a few too many touches. Good defensive work by Maldonado. And now a substitution coming up for Puerto Rico. And this will be Adeline Torres-Araba, who plays club soccer in Florida. And Maldonado, the lone goal scorer for Puerto Rico, exiting the game.
Puerto Rico sale con el número 11, Mayra Maldonado. Entra con el número 7, Marilena Gómez. Minuto 60.
Puerto Rico here in the 60th minute, very much in this game. The U.S. with not as many legitimate scoring chances so far in the second half as they had by this time in the first half. In Puerto Rico, perhaps a little more time on the ball so far in the second half than they enjoyed by this time in the first 45 as well. Puerto Rico's only goal coming against the run of play, and you get the feeling that if they're going to get another and tie this game, it's going to happen in a similar fashion. 1 hour in, half an hour left to go here in Toluca, Mexico. The score stays this way. The U.S. will secure their spot in the semifinal round and move a step closer to qualification for the Under-17 World Cup later this year in the Dominican Republic. Towns had it roll under her foot, and it was Coughlin who just couldn't keep it in. This Under-17 tournament for the U.S., not just an important event for the youth ranks in and of itself, but also a very good barometer for future success and a launch pad for players into additional competition at higher levels of the U.S. soccer hierarchy. If you look at it over the years, a total of 19 players who have played for the U.S. in this Under-17 championship have gone on to earn caps at the senior level, including 6 who won World Cups in either 2015 or 2019. And another substitution coming up for the U.S., that is Alex Pfeiffer, who it looks like is set to come on momentarily. Pfeiffer, like Barcenas, a professional player. So the 2 pros on the U.S. roster will both be on the pitch at the same time here shortly. U.S. looking for space down the left-hand side. Travers plays it into the middle, gets it back, and then tripped over the ball. Warm day here in Toluca, Mexico, but not overly hot. This is the second game for each team in the last 48 hours. There is 1 day between each group stage game. Not like other senior tournaments where you get multiple days, just 1 day in between here. But hey, they're young, right? So fatigue shouldn't be too much of a factor. A lot of these young women are used to playing in club tournaments over the last few years where sometimes you play multiple games in a single day. So given the fact that it's not excessively hot, shouldn't be too much of a factor going forward. Here is Towns getting forward for the U.S. Now Coughlin, she'll chip it in. Ball pops loose. Punched wide. Golden opportunity for the U.S. Sitting on a brace and had every opportunity in the world to slot it home, but just missed it wide. And now it's going to be Alex Pfeiffer coming in, as we will get the U.S. substitution here. And it will be Riley McClanahan who exits. So, year-old Alex Pfeiffer from St. Louis, coming off a sensational U17 Concacaf debut on Friday when she had a hat trick, assisted in 2 other goals. Terrific goal scorer overall. Moving on here in the second half for Team USA as they look to add to their 1-goal lead. Here is Helfrich. Line drive cross before it's cleared out by Puerto Rico. Unable to keep it in for the U.S. So the U.S. with several substitutions now already here in this second half. Alex Pfeiffer in the win over Panama. So dangerous getting down the left-hand side. Takes up good positions in the box. Clinical when she gets an opportunity for the final touch. So while the U.S. started this match with only a couple of players who also this game against Panama, those starters have since come on here as this game has unfolded for the U.S. Trying to, at the very least, lock down this and cement their position to get the win and the spot in the semifinal round. Certainly not on the same trajectory as they were in the win over Panama when they captured a 13-0 victory, but different lineup, different day. It's really what matters in the end. Here is Towns, and there is the 3rd U.S. goal. Well worked, good combination play. Mia Towns, her 3rd goal in the first 2 games, and the U.S. now with the 3-1 lead. Run, perfectly weighted pass. Coming out, difficult position, not much she could do. So 3 goals from 3 different goal scorers, and the U.S. in a more comfortable 2-goal lead. Now remember, the last time they took a 2-goal lead in the first half, Puerto Rico came back with a stunning goal 1 minute later. The U.S. well aware of that, so the foot's still on the gas pedal here. Dangerous play at the back for Puerto Rico. Now Mia Towns, the Virginia native, soccer back in Virginia as well. An impact so far for the squad. And now another substitution for Puerto Rico as Evangelina Arocho, who plays at the North Florida Soccer Academy, is going to come on, and she is going to take the place of Olivia Bevilacqua.
Su atención, por favor. Sustitución del equipo Puerto Rico. Sale con el número 4, Olivia Bevilacqua. Entra con el número 2, Evangelina Arocho. Minuto 69.
Just north of 20 minutes left to go in regulation. If things stay this way, the U.S. will be on to the semifinal round. Still one more group stage game left to go. Coming up later on today, it's the final game in Group B in this second round of fixtures. Canada taking on Panama. Looking to create once again in the box. Dennis backtracking. Sniper, and she's offsides. Hold that move a little bit longer. Alex Pfeiffer, the fourth youngest player to ever sign with the NWSL when she put pen to paper with the Kansas City Current. Pfeiffer at the time just 15 years of age. She is now 16. The ECNL Under-17 Player of the Year last year. And a winner of 2 consecutive club national titles. So she's just about done it all. The level she's played at, and has been an instant goal scorer for the U.S. youth national sides where she's participated. And that always is a true sign of a genuine competitor and someone with tremendous potential. When it doesn't take long to acclimate, when you move up a level, competition, club, international, whatever the case, when you take that next step, if it doesn't take you long to adjust, if you feel like you fit in right away and you can make those immediate contributions, it shows maturity and impact, both physically and mentally. That's a good sign for Team USA looking into the future. Players like Barcenas, Pfeiffer, both pros, still very young, and boy, just the depth and the breadth of talent all across this U.S. roster, very impressive. And here is Barcenas, who is about to take the U.S. corner. That's a good move. Splitting defenders. Carlin comes out to make a terrific stop. The U.S. turning the screws here. In search of a fourth. Barcenas spending a lot of time on the ball since coming in. It's Alex Pfeiffer taking that extra touch. Her way through that back line. Good challenge. Elfrich. She's been all over the pitch here today, doing a lot of work physically as well as scoring the opening goal for the U.S. Puerto Rico playing some hopeful balls forward in the second half as well as back in the first, but just not having the pace to get there and match the acceleration of some of these U.S. players. Once again, Helfrich, 1v1. Marker to the back post. Throw and not concede the corner. Speed to get around Yana Pierce. Over the head of Helfrich here. Be able to get there. The U.S. with 2 goals in the first half, 1 so far here in the second. Helfrich and Travers, the 2 tallies in the first 45, and Towns coming off the bench here in the second half and getting her 3rd goal of the tournament in the first 2 games to make it a 2-goal lead. Puerto Rico's only goal coming from Malia Maldonado back in the first half. She has since exited the match. The U.S. winning it right back. Barcenas slots it through. Pfeiffer trying to turn. Rico firm at the back line, but even when they win the ball, they concede it right back to the U.S. Not able to do anything with it, trying to turn the other direction. The U.S. coming in waves here. Helfrich to the end line. The cross and behind the goal. So the U.S. really dialing up the pressure here, and Puerto Rico just hanging on at the back, but they are definitely on the ropes. Katie Sheffer has to like what she's seen so far here in this second half. The Connecticut native who, as I mentioned earlier, played professional soccer for the Boston Breakers, was an All-American collegiately at Penn State, and a prominent high school player growing up in Connecticut. A high school All-American who has the all-time goals record for her high school with 157 during her high school career, as that foul is whistled on Lexi Coughlin of the U.S. Katie Sheffer, part of the Connecticut Soccer Hall of Fame, and trying to lead basically the same group of players to their second Concacaf Youth Championship. She was the head coach when the U15 side won back in 2022, now trying to lead the Under-17 side to victory here 2 years later. Goal kick and a heavy fall over there. Pfeiffer going on pretty hard into the barriers. Trying to keep it alive, gets knocked off balance there, and not much room before the barricade was staring her in the face. So she'll come off for a moment here, collect herself. The St. Louis native who for a while went to high school at Nation Academy in St. Louis, but didn't play soccer there. She was focused on club football and eventually became homeschooled to focus more on the sport after leaving visitation. At this level, so many young women have to devote so much time to training, playing, travel, a lot of commitments when you play for the U.S. youth national teams and for club teams at a high level. In the case of Alex Pfeiffer, now signing a professional contract. In order to get there and continue your evolution as a player, you have to find other ways to continue your education. And sometimes you have to get a little creative and make different choices. That's one thing that all these players have in common, is their commitment to what they are doing. This isn't something where you're halfway in. 100% committed to the sport and this overall journey if you're on this roster. That's a good through ball. And again, the flag is up for offsides on the U.S. But Pfeiffer, again, like she was in game number one, very threatening down that left-hand side. Just a good run, making that angled move towards the goal. And now, yet another substitution for Team USA. Katie Scott is going to come on. Will exit. So Katie Scott in the win over Panama 2 days ago, and a versatile player for this U.S. side. She has played all over the pitch, forward, winger, midfield, on the back line. She can do whatever required. Certainly has the athletic gene in her DNA. Her father, Penn State, her mom was a gymnast for the Nittany Lions. 3 older brothers played soccer, 1 at the collegiate level. And here she is now, Scott, who plays at right back now for the under-17 side, but loves the position, even though, as I mentioned, she's played around the pitch, but she likes right back because she gets more involved higher up the pitch than a lot of right backs normally would. The U.S. gets their backs involved in the attack. She gets shots on goal and is just a big contributor offensively to this U.S. side. So she likes that dynamic, not just staying in a defensive position, but getting forward and contributing to offensive chances. We hit the 80-minute mark, 10 left to go here in Toluca. U.S. leading by 2, and at this point on their way to what looks like a semifinal berth here at the Under-17 Concacaf Championships. This is Group B competition, the second day of group stage play. Each team with 3 games in the group. The U.S. will take on Canada in their final group stage match. That'll be on Tuesday. Canada coming up next here today against Panama. Canada winning their opener in a comfortable 5-0 fashion over this same Puerto Rican side that the U.S. are playing today. In the other group, Mexico and Haiti have already booked their spots in the semifinal round. They played their second matches yesterday. They are a perfect 2-0 so far, with wins over Costa Rica and El Salvador. So that group already decided, with one more match for them left to play in the group. That'll be tomorrow. The U.S. and Mexico have been locked in battle on several occasions, and some very good contests over the years here at this Under-17 championship. And it figures that we might be headed for that same sort of confrontation this year as well. Mexico at the Under-17 level, ranked as the #1 team in CONCACAF. The U.S. is #2. Mexico hosting this tournament here in Toluca, so they will be a very tough out, no matter who they play. Pfeiffer trying to break through the back line of Puerto Rico. Results to this point through group play, no surprise to anybody, as Barcenas here looks to make a move and get a shot on goal. Lays it out wide. Players tries to spin. A goal kick. So every team that has won so far, the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and Haiti, are the top 4 ranked teams in CONCACAF coming into the tournament overall. Mexico 1, the U.S. 2, Canada 3, and Haiti 4. So results going according to the way you would probably expect. There's Katie Scott. Good physical move to win possession. Mexico, the 9th different country to host this tournament, after Trinidad and Tobago hosted the inaugural edition. That was back in 2008. Guatemala, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Grenada, Nicaragua, and the U.S., as well as the Dominican Republic, have all taken a turn as well. Mexico, by the way, was scheduled to host back in 2020 before the tournament was canceled due to the pandemic. Pair of substitutions coming up for Puerto Rico now, as Haley Martinez, who plays club soccer in Virginia, will come on. Yana Pierce going out. And also Natalia Rivera is going to come on. And Katsi Bengoa, who plays her club soccer in Orlando, will take to the bench with half a dozen minutes left to go. U.S. leading 3-1. The U.S. without the sort of convincing victory that they had over Panama, but still a lot of good on display from the U.S. here today, controlling the match in every way and by just about every conceivable metric. Dominating possession. Perhaps the only thing you could say is they would have liked to generate a few more genuine goal-scoring opportunities. They've been in the final third plenty, but a lot of shots errant, over the bar, off target. Opportunity here. Riley Cross trying to find Pfeiffer. Here we go. Pfeiffer missing it, slots it through. Range effort. Bounce. Blasts a shot that's stopped by Carlin. On that rocket from Towns, who was looking for her second goal in this second half. Final 5. Carlin. Pretty good match in goal, all things considered, for Puerto Rico. Here's Pfeiffer trying to get control. Now Scott for the U.S. Flips it back in. A terrific stop. Not much time to react. The shots of the match for either side. Now when you think of what this tournament means for World Cup qualifying, over the years, only 4 different teams have qualified out of Concacaf for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup. The U.S. has done it 5 times, Mexico 6, Canada 7, and Costa Rica once. There is Scott. And it's usually the case that there are 3 qualifying spots that come from the Under-17 tournament, but with the Dominican Republic hosting out of CONCACAF this year, they get an automatic spot at the World Cup. And so 2 teams from this event will use it as a World Cup qualifier for the Under-17 World Cup that will be played later this year. Out of the 16 countries that are scheduled to participate in the upcoming U17 Women's World Cup, just 2 have actually qualified so far. Of course, the host in the Dominican Republic, and Oceania Under-16 champions New Zealand. As the cross comes in for the U.S. there, gets through everyone, and Puerto Rico able to clear. So you've got the Dominican Republic as the host. Oceania has already won, with New Zealand taking the Under-16 championship. So New Zealand and the Dominican Republic have booked their spots. You've got 2 more countries coming from this Under-17 CONCACAF championship. Then 3 will come from Asia, 3 from South America, 3 more from Europe, and a trio of countries from Africa as well. That will make up the field for the World Cup later this year. A lot of places still to be earned Just the Dominican Republic and New Zealand so far with their spots secure. And now into the 90th minute here in Toluca. Chipped in again. Pfeiffer. Right into the arms of Carlin. Of stoppage time at the end of the first half. Should be something similar here in the second half. Not many true stoppages to account for. Remember, coming up next here, it'll be Canada against Panama. That'll be 1 hour after the finish of this game. As the U.S. will get a free kick here, as we are just about to hit the 90-minute mark. It'll be 3 minutes of stoppage time.
Get in the wall! Go! To the left, to the left, Sarah! Sarah, to the left! To the left! Get together, to the left! Hold! Hold!
Pretty good spot for the U.S. Definitely goal-scoring range. Here is Barcenas standing over it. Mel Barcenas with the line drive and a dipper into the arms of Kaylee Carlin. Strike. You get that ball dropping like that, it can make it difficult for the keeper, especially if it hops in front of him, but able to scoop that one up. And now into stoppage time here in Toluca at the headquarters of the Mexican Football Federation. All around, a very sound performance from Team USA, not the woodshed beating that they gave Panama 2 days ago, but 2 goals in the first half, 1 here in the second half. Taking control of possession and the goal-scoring opportunities here, wearing down Puerto Rico in this second half. And while Puerto Rico in the first 5 or 6 minutes of this second frame did create some chances in transition, they got on the ball, worked their way into the final third of the U.S. In the last 30 minutes or so, it has been all one-way traffic for the U.S. They have been dominating. They have been in the Puerto Rico end, and Puerto Rico just has not been able to get forward really in any significant way. And the U.S. bringing on fresh subs, creating more scoring opportunities, and Puerto Rico just hanging on and trying to defend instead of trying to hit on the counterattack. Coming up on the final minute of stoppage time, and here is Helfrich once again getting in deep. As for Towns, that's going to be a handball on Mia Towns and a free kick for Puerto Rico. A very good first 2 opening games for Mia Towns. 3 goals in the first 2 contests. And the U.S. now with 8 different goal scorers through these first 2 games, highlighting their offense, the versatility in their roster, and their scoring ability across the board. Down to the final seconds. On their way to the semi-final round of the Concacaf Under-17 Women's Championship. 2 wins in 2 games for Team USA. Today, Carolyn Helfrich, Jocelyn Travers, and Mia Towns in another demonstrative performance, convincing win, as the final from the Mexican Football Federation is the U.S. 3, Puerto Rico 1, here today in Toluca, Mexico. Goals in the first half, 1 coming from the substitute Towns in the second half of play. And the U.S. now with one more group stage game to go. That'll be against fellow North American side Canada on Tuesday. 13-0 win over Panama on Friday. They win by 2 here today. Puerto Rico putting up a fight defensively, but just not able to. The offensive firepower of this very potent U.S. side. So the U.S., depending on what Canada does in the game coming up against Panama in just about an hour, will maintain their first place position at the top of Group B, and that is on goal differential. The U.S. and Canada both coming into today's games with 1 win and no loss, but the U.S. with 8 more goals than Canada coming into their second games here today. And the U.S. adding 3 more in the win over Puerto Rico, and we'll see what Canada can do against Panama shortly.
It was very demanding match.
What happened?
It was very demanding match.
What?
It was
It
very
was?
demanding match.
Yes, very, very, very. I mean, it was a good game overall. I love the competition, the intensity, and overall, it was just an amazing performance from both teams. I'm super proud of my team, amazed with the U.S. Overall, grateful for this whole experience.
The next day on Tuesday will be against